evening, and welcome to episode 64, 3,789 days until I am 40. Title's BitBlock Bloom. That's the event happening in Dallas that I'll be going to. I'm off to. Meanwhile, I'm trying something new with our cat, actually. Set up like a kitty cam at home to check in on her while I'm away, put up like bowls and food, uh, bowls of food and water, and a bunch of toys to keep her engaged and just be in touch with her. We'll see how it goes. Neighbors are nearby just in case. Continuing though, on BitBlock Boom, hoping to make a lot of new friends there and better understand where everyone's like borrowing needs or how they see how people are evolving um, in their use and understanding of Bitcoin, especially with Bitcoin maxis, and and especially the idea that the idea of Bitcoin being a prime collateral that people can actually use financially and in an economic way, starting now. Now, I'll give a summary as well. I think on research so far, conversation so far, um, and the biggest player in the Bitcoin lending space is Ledn, Ledn, um, on $6 billion in loans, I think. Unchained is also popular, but their main target is inheritance and custody planning, it seems. There's a few other names, of course. These are the biggest ones that people just you give custody of your like you give out custody of your Bitcoin. You give it to them. They kind of store it in a transparent manner and lend you fiat or dollars against your Bitcoin. The other players are like Lava in the custody space or like just helping people manage their inheritance. There's Liana as well, Anchor Watch, and then meanwhile are also pushing on insurance, like more long term for like people trying to retire on Bitcoin. So that's a quick background on like available services. Um, and moving to like categorizing customers or segments that we're speaking with, there's traders, miners, holders, and whales. And for the most part, you can also segregate them not squarely, but just into the size of the transactions that they would do, 1K versus 10K versus 100K versus millions. And usually the smaller sizes tend to be more emergency immediate. They don't really care too much about the security, and they're testing or they're happy paying higher rates because they're cycling capital faster and they tend to be shorter terms. Meanwhile, as you go further up, you're looking at longer terms. The $1 million plus is very much institutionalized, right? Public miners, MSTR, things like that. Um, but there's like a sweet, big honeypot of hodlers or Bitcoin believers. They may or may not be whales who want to do transactions of like $100,000 or more, and usually they'll have businesses, whether in real estate or whatnot, and they're capable of generating returns 25% plus per annum on their businesses, things like that, and um, they are still very much underserved, and I think everyone's trying to work their way into that, but um, I've really been studying what the possible gaps are between the lenders and borrowers in the space, the two sides, and to bring them together. And the it doesn't seem like a big deal, like off the bat, but liquidation, like so Bitcoin is volatile, right? And if it goes below a certain price, then the loan is liquidated. So the Bitcoin is sold, the loan is canceled, and the lender just takes their profit. It feels very sharky, and for the smaller loans, short terms, people don't really like. Yeah, it's true. I don't think it's actually a big major factor for people doing smaller loans or short term loans. However, that big honeypot of people who do care about their Bitcoin, see it as prime collateral. They want to do transactions of 100,000 plus. Um, Liquidation becomes like actually a really big factor. Now, I know this intuitively, and I'm validating in conversations. Now, how do you actually solve it though, right? From the lender's perspective, they don't want any risk, and that's a challenge. Like, we're used to getting risk-free yield, I guess. But anyway, that's the whole idea. They don't want to be taken advantage of. They have the capital. They don't want any risk. There is room here for like an insurance play. I've been talking to Saturns, just mentioned it to Anchit, and I see an opportunity to introduce like an optional insurance or just add a rate or include something that allows these business owners or whales that are trying to do $100,000 deals plus want longer terms of like 1 to 3 years to really hedge their bets, like get value for money, get a higher loan to value ratio, but also completely avoid liquidation as a concern. They don't want to be worrying about it, even like with 12 hours notice. They don't want to worry about it. Um, and what the challenge is that it's complicated. It's more complex to introduce like another insurance level. It's like, oh, here's your loan, here are the rates, here's the LTV, blah blah. It's already okay. We're used to this, and it's like, oh well, here's also another additional insurance you can purchase. But coming from the car space, I think it can be sold that way. It's like, how do you gap insurance? Like gap insurance. So you could sell people gap insurance on their Bitcoin loans. One last thing to touch on is just for where my investors and where I kind of personally want to keep this. I do want to avoid like an interest bearing approach. I do want to keep this a bit more um, risk shared or volatility trading. And when you're doing that, you actually want to like set the prices. So instead of doing like a fixed interest amount, you kind of want to actually just set prices over a certain time period, and that way it becomes more of a trade or um, it becomes more of a trading relationship than just a simple borrowing relationship. Anyway, I think I'm gonna work towards closing this monologue today. Thank you all for listening. Um, it's just every day I'm looking to further simplify this message or further simplify my understanding to make the product itself simpler and easier to understand, use, and connect both parties to make it work. I still can't shake the paranoia of being behind on everything. Um, I guess you just keep working at it every day. Things come up. I do have something coolish to share. Let's see, is it here? No. But yeah, like I want to do something like this for like our like update our dashboard, really create a more transparent order book. Because at the end of the day, for everything that I'm hypothesizing or validating in conversations, we need to be putting together in like a wait list or like a transparent order book kind of board where people can really put in their applications and and show investors or lenders where the real demand is and how they can participate. Stop sharing. Complete postscript. I also started using captions.ai, so more of these will have captions. I'll start experimenting with that on Instagram first and then grow from there. And I got to play with some really cool like editing capabilities that the AI has. I was fretting about like, oh, I gotta pay someone, learn this skill, whatever. Um, hey, AI is cooler and better every day, and I'm learning as we go. Thanks for listening today.